Hello, welcome to AI in Action. My name is Maurie, and I'm here with my husband Jim. It is Sunday afternoon, and we are going to talk about artificial intelligence. So, this week we have a few things coming up that I'm really excited about in a way, but in a way I'm not excited about it because we're going to get on an airplane sometime this week. I don't really like flying that much.
I don't know. It's been a while since you've flown. We're not going to be going far. We're not going to be gone long. I think you'll be okay. I mean, you went on a small private plane, remember, for your birthday?
And I did
You did
Denver and
okay.
back and stuff.
You did okay.
It's just a little fear, and I'm working on it. So, anyway, we are going to talk today about artificial intelligence, of course, and we are also going to talk about specifically artificial intelligence in medicine.
I try to pick a theme whenever I'm getting information for our podcast. Usually it's education, but there's other areas, and I've got kind of a rant about, my rants about medicine anyway, but we've been having some medical issues lately. The different family members, as you and I both know, our elderly parents, and then of course,
not just our elderly parents. Let's talk about me.
Yeah, you and I had a couple as well. So what I'm hoping is that AI can be what I'm calling a solution for an unsolvable problem. I don't think our medical costs and poor medical care, especially in rural and poor areas like ours, I don't think it's going to get better with the whole thing being driven by profit and loss statements.
Well, the situation, I mean, we even sat on a medical board kind of thing earlier this year.
Yeah, that they were trying to close our hospital.
They're trying to keep our hospital from closing down. So, and this is happening more and more and more. You have these large hospitals that come in and buy up all of these smaller rural hospitals. Then they dump all of their debt into the smaller rural hospitals, and then they close them down. So it happens with golf courses. It happens with hospitals. It happens with, a lot of different things.
Ours did manage to stay open, but I don't know how long it's going to. So my bigger problem with them is the way, if you look at our local hospital system, the hospital itself is owned by the same company as the insurance company, as the practitioner clinics. All of this stuff is owned by the same group, and it's very incestuous, their relationship between them. Because this is the way I think it works. I think you go in to get a medical procedure. Like when you went in, we went to years ago, you had a medical procedure. We went to a doctor that was on the plan. We went to the hospital. We had their own insurance. We had everything was done. We went to leave the hospital because you'd been there a while. It was a pretty serious medical event. You've been there a while. Went to leave. They wanted me to pay $6,000. Because
that was like our maximum.
Because they had things the insurance company wouldn't.
It wasn't acceptable.
And I said, we went to your insurance, your doctors, your hospital. How could you deny something? Don't you know what you accepted? Don't before you even did I said, I'm not paying $6,000. I said, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to keep her.
Okay, I didn't. Oh boy, don't you wish they would have?
No, I do not, and no, I didn't say that. But my point is that this relationship is causing the medical care. I think it's run by these equity firms. I think they're buying up all of these hospital systems. They're running them like a profit and loss statement. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be profitable, but not everything about medicine. You're talking about people's lives here.
Well, and a situation we found ourselves in now is that we actually have like a concierge doctor that we pay a monthly amount, because we save more money paying them than we would being on a family insurance plan. So we have just the basic minimum that we can get for the insurance through where we work. And then we pay a concierge private doctor for all of our regular health care. And what happens is if we go in to get something done, like, a normal procedure, or like you had to go in and have like an MRI, we immediately say, what is the cash price? Because if we pay cash, it is cheaper than the 20% that we have to pay after our deductible is met.
Guess what they do? When you go to these places and you get this done, and then they write off if you don't pay the whole bill. You get turned over to collections by these medical people before you even get the first bill.
Yes.
Because they write off. They get a cash amount out of you for your copay, and then that covers their basic costs. and then they send it to collections and write it off so that on their profit and loss statements.
Right.
My
How does
point,
AI help us?
okay, I got one more point, then I'm done with this rant.
Okay.
If you are a baby boomer, a Gen X, or any of these, these labels people like to apply nowadays, there was a prediction made years ago that the millennial generation, which our oldest son is one of, he's a late millennial, but millennial generation is going to be the biggest transfer of wealth in human history, because the baby boomers worked hard and had a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not happening the way they thought. Why? Because baby boomers' wealth is being drained
by the industry.
By this industry. This whole industry it's the top four slots for what we spend money on in the United States is medical care. I mean, we've seen it with our parents. You had to get a special dispensation. Dad, who's a veteran, had to get for him to get his blood thinner. He couldn't afford his blood thinner. You had to send letters to the company to get a discount on it so he could get his blood thinner so he wouldn't have a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is insane. Anyway, moving on. How is AI going to help this? Well, I think AI is going to catch them by surprise. Let's look at this first headline.
So June 18th, the BBC says Parkinson's blood test gives early diagnosis hope.
So they have an AI tool that they use to analyze blood samples of at-risk patients, and they were able to almost 80% of the time, they could predict years in advance whether or not someone was going to develop Parkinson's disease.
I'm like, oh my God, do I want to know? Knowledge is power.
Yes.
So if you know ahead of time that you're probably going to get Parkinson's disease, you can plan ahead. And you can get on the treatments earlier.
Yes.
To try to mitigate some of the symptoms of Parkinson's
Unfortunately,
disease.
The insurance companies, they're going to use this. I hope that's illegal. They're going to use this as a tool to raise your insurance rates.
Yeah.
So anyway, the second one, which is, and again, more toward what I was thinking in terms of how it's going to catch them by surprise. It's a University of Southern California. I have no idea what that is. It's some kind of name, Viter BIS school or something. Anyway, from wearables to swallowables. Their researchers created a GPS smart pill that you swallow it and it takes readings inside your body. I heard there was a guy, may have been this one, swallowed it on stage. It was sending video and people were watching the pill go through his body on stage.
Wow.
Because it was transmitting video. But that's interesting. And I agree with that. But what's also interesting is they're putting sensors in it. Specifically, they mention a sensor that looks for ammonia gas, which I didn't realize is a byproduct of the H. pylori bacteria, which is one of the most common bacterias that causes problems in humans in existence.
Okay. So basically, they're
looking for
gut health.
Yes.
For gut health.
Yeah. And they say that they can use this for peptic ulcers, gastric cancer, irritable bowel syndrome. You just swallow a pill and it starts sending gas readings back to tell you what's going on. That kind of stuff, you don't have to go to the local hospital and pay $7,000 for an MRI or some kind of test that comes from the outside in anyway, probably, and then pay another.
And has health consequences of the outside in.
Yeah, and you have to get readings done that somebody else charges. This right here could be sent to a doctor. Maybe the doctor's not even here locally. Maybe that doctor that I'm using is somewhere else, which we've got an article about that in a minute too.
Okay, do you remember the movie? This reminds me a little bit of like nanotechnology.
Yeah, it's not quite that small, but yes.
Yeah, but like, the little nanites that
it had,
you saw the
Meg
movies,
Ryan in it,
Meg Ryan,
and Dennis Quaid.
Yeah.
And Inner Space.
Like so that. Anyway, I mean, that kind of reminds me, it's so futuristic. It's actually really cool how
it is
futuristic.
And they're finding more and more that your gut determines your overall health a lot.
Absolutely.
Which, considering how much trouble I've had with my gut.
I mean, well, let's think about it. That's the center of everything. It's where you get your energy. It's where you basically get rid of what you don't need. It's where, all of your gut health.
Okay, I got a good one for you. They actually say that they think your gut has neural nets in it. So in a sense, your gut is like a second brain in your body.
Wow. I haven't heard that.
Yeah. The old saying was a way to a man's heart is through his stomach.
Maybe
that's where his brain is. That's where your brain is. Anyway, we won't go there because we could go to a lot of places for that one. Okay, calm down. AI detects. I'll let you read this one. I read the last one.
AI system detects early Alzheimer's signs through a patient's voice. Now, we have members of your family.
My grandmother had Alzheimer's when she died.
All of her siblings.
And your grandfather we may have a genetic
We
predisposition.
might
to it.
need to go swallow that
Well,
pill
but
and
you know,
find out.
my dad doesn't have it, and he's 86, 87 years. Now my grandmother had it. Your grandfather had it. You know, he doesn't.
Yeah.
He may have a little bit of issues with remembering stuff, but it's not the same. Alzheimer's is a horrible disease.
I worked for a neurologist for a long time.
You did.
And the number one way to know, here's the tip.
When you get to the point where
The number one way to
getting
know that you have Alzheimer's versus you just have like a full brain or you have just normal
bad, or
aging.
you're aging.
What Dr. Kane used to say, best doctor ever, he would say, if you pick up your car keys, okay, or if you don't remember your car keys, if you can't find your car keys and you're searching for your car keys, and then, oh my God, they're in my hand the whole time.
That's a memory problem.
That's just you're getting old, you're getting scatterbrained, whatever.
Yes.
If you have the car keys in your hand and you don't know that that's what you use to start your car,
Forget what they're for.
that's Alzheimer's.
Well, this one, what they did was researchers used natural language processing and machine learning AI model. They basically used it. They trained it with people's voices, listening to their voices, and they had people with mild cognitive impairment, all the way up to full Alzheimer's. They had an 88% accuracy rate in distinguishing between the groups.
So
I don't know how far in advance,
I am sure that when you go to get Alzheimer's, there's probably something, because your brain is what tells you what to say and how to say it and how to
those
enunciate.
neural nets get clogged up with that plaque, is what
right.
they're saying.
And so
it doesn't
I'm
work as
sure
well.
there's like a hesitancy or there's a
something
tonal
subtle
quality, something really, really subtle.
They don't say in this summary of it, they don't say how long in advance it can predict it, but I suspect it's fairly far. I mean, you're probably starting to get a mild cognitive
Symptoms.
impairment, so maybe
Mhm.
you've got another 5 or 10 years before it gets bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming it's at least 5 to 10 years out. But again, this is a tool that I could use my smartphone, and I could have a doctor that's taking an AI helping a doctor in another state. I don't have to go down here and get overcharged for the test.
For someone to have you draw a clock
Yeah.
and tell you if it's Alzheimer's,
And then
because
charge you
that's
a
the number
$200
one
and then charge
way.
you $200
If
for
you-
smell of peanut butter.
They ask you, who's the president? How old are you? What's the date? And then they have you literally draw a clock. And if they tell you to put like 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock or some time on the clock.
Or they show you the
And-
clock and you can't tell the time.
And the other thing that we used to do, again, I worked for a neurologist for a long time, is you would walk in and immediately you would say, okay, I'm going to give you a word. And then I need you to be, remember this word. And then at the end of the 30-minute, I know, I couldn't do it.
I'm in real trouble when
The
they
look
do that
on your
one.
face is like, oh man, I'm in trouble. But anyway, that's absolutely amazing.
Well-
and again, do you want to know? Yes, you do, because it's not just for you. It's for your family. It's for, it's for everyone that's going to be around you.
Well, my parents, when my dad was afraid of it, they didn't do as much as they should have. But when he was afraid of it, they started preparing their house some.
A lot of things they did are
And
very helpful.
they put little whiteboards all over the place with the dry erase pens, so they could write on, reminders.
Not just
and
that, but like,
they-
remodeling the shower and putting in the handrails
Yes.
and, all the stuff. They very much so. And it's funny because he is now in an electric wheelchair, which he gets around so much better now. But one of the things they did not think about,
Yes, we forgot
was
about that one.
the door frame.
The width of the door
width
to the
of
bathroom.
the door frame to the bathroom.
That's
It's
the one that counts.
now he knows to like pull his elbows in so he can get through, and he's gotten really good at driving it, but still.
If that door frame into that bathroom, because
5
the
inches.
bathroom is the biggest. Anyway, we digress. My point is that these diagnostic tests, now we've talked about a pill you can swallow.
Mhm.
We've talked about listening to your voice. We've talked about these blood samples. There's doctors recently, they were talking about they use the data from your smartwatch to help diagnose heart problems
Oh.
and stuff like that. So take these, it's the diagnostics that may catch these companies by surprise, because a lot of the costs they're charging you for is the diagnostics. You go to get an MRI, you got a $700 copay, maybe sometimes higher. The actual, when you get it done, it's $2,500. They charge the insurance company, and then you refuse to pay some of it. So then they write that. We already ranted about that though. But we do the cash pay. It's $400. They're making a ton of money on these diagnostics, which is something Dr. Kane told you. It's been a few years. I won't
It's
say
been
how
a
long
long
ago.
time.
But Dr. Kane told you that the doctors had started creating their own diagnostic clinics. Remember Austin Diagnostics? They
Mhm.
created that because
They were tired of all the
They were tired of all
going
the
over.
profits going to the hospital systems for all the diagnostics.
Yeah.
So, but if these diagnostics get cheaper and AI helps and your doctor doesn't have to be local, that's a different thing.
There's a big, huge shortage coming
Of doctors.
Yeah,
because who wants to go through 12 years of medical school
to get not any pay?
Well, you had to go work for one of these hospital systems that wants to work you.
Right.
I remember we talked to one local physician's assistant, and he left the system because of the fact that he was seeing so many patients during the day, he couldn't do his paperwork.
Well, I worked
And so
for
he
a
had to do
doctor.
paperwork at night.
I worked for a doctor that had his own location, had his
Oh,
own
yeah.
employees.
And he worked himself. He worked
himself to death. And basically he knew how many patients he needed to see every single day for him to be able to break even.
Yeah, and some of that has to do with the operational costs that go with it.
Operational costs and Medicare payments. I mean, and the law said that he had to see a certain number of Medicare patients a day. You know, he couldn't turn them away if he took Medicare. But I had to limit the number because literally I would put in a charge for like a $75 office visit and Medicare would send us $5.
Well, and these diagnostic tools that are AI backed, along with doctors that don't have to. So maybe he doesn't have to see as many Medicare patients because those patients, maybe instead of the Medicare paying for them to go see the doctor, it pays for them to get these diagnostics, sends them a little box that says, swallow this pill.
Or go to a pharmacy.
Which is what you and I said. If that lady hadn't messed it all up with her,
her little blood
sample thing and ended up in jail for it, CVS and then we're talking about putting in this diagnostic stuff in the pharmacy. And I think she set that all back. But anyway, so the next one I thought you'd find interesting. It's a company called Kaggle. I don't remember exactly what Kaggle does. I was going to look that up, but they're having a contest. This is what I thought you'd find interesting.
I think it's cool because I think I'm going to go to my dad and I'm going to take a bunch of pictures of his little skin cancers that he's got.
The AI algorithm.
Oh man,
I might.
That's your job, babe.
Sure.
You can develop an AI
it's a competition.
algorithm.
You develop an AI algorithm that can identify histologically confirmed skin cancers, including melanoma, basal cell carcinoma, squamous. Sure. And other skin lesions. Well, your dad has had a few of those.
Yeah, he's had all of them.
They have total prizes of $80,000. The deadline is August 30th, which is 2 months from now. But they're paying people to help diagnose AI, to help create AI algorithms that are trained.
It's a really great idea.
I agree.
I mean,
what they say is that there's been cases where people have posted online. They're like influencers and they have videos, and they'll have a doctor or a nurse that's watching it, sees it, and tells them you need to go get that checked. And they go and find out they had undiagnosed cancer. That's what they're talking about, is using selfies. So again, we're back to this is what the whole theme of this is: lower cost diagnostics that can be done by non-local hospitals, or doctors and
people from all over the world.
If we can keep these equity funds that own these things from buying up all the technology, patenting it, and making it impossible to use. Anyway, this one I thought was interesting. AIinLabCoat.com, all one word.
It's an AI in a lab coat.
AI in a lab coat. And headline is how AI revealed hidden lung damage from severe COVID-19 cases.
Well,
we know people that have what they call the long tail COVID. They had COVID very badly, and they, based on the COVID, their health has changed. I mean, they don't have the same lung capacity, or they get they get tired more quickly. My dad's terrified of getting COVID because of his lung capacity is at 20-25%. And he can't afford another 10% gone of his lung capacity from COVID. So they're using, again, AI analysis of these CT scans. You and I've said this over and over again. AI shouldn't replace doctors. No. It shouldn't replace radiologists.
But as I just said, we're going to have a bubble to where we're not going to have enough doctors and radiologists and stuff to go around.
What I'm afraid of is that with the self-diagnostic stuff, that they are going to have there's going to be some, company spring up in India that's going to have doctors, and maybe Indian doctors are fine, but they're not, trained the way they are here.
The hiring practices of the companies.
And they're going to start sending, people are going to send this stuff to them for diagnostics. But you and I have said this before. You can't just say to a poor person or to an elderly person, I'm sorry, we can't afford for you to go to the doctor. We can't afford to run this test. What do you expect them to do? Sit home and die?
Yeah.
I mean, if your choice is I'm going to use an AI and I'm going
Or
to use a
I'm gonna
doctor
use
in
nothing.
India, or I'm going to use nothing, and I'm terrified that I have skin cancer or I got a knot on my, you're going to do something.
Mhm.
And maybe it's a bad thing, but it's certainly not worse than your other alternative, which is to just, well, I'm sorry, you're going to have to die. We can't afford to treat you. We're going to have to put you somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so I think AI might level the playing field if all the patents don't get bought up by all these equity firms that, again, I talk about open source a lot
I wonder if government should step in and do some government regulations.
on letting equity firms, if our government would spend a little more time on the problems that are affecting everyday people every day, like the fact that these healthcare companies are draining the entire generational wealth from the baby boomers, start worrying about that a little bit instead of arguing about the idiotic things they spend all their time arguing about that don't affect most people's lives every day. Maybe this stuff would get fixed. I've heard the argument over and over again that we're treating illegal immigrants and stuff so much that it's sucking all the life out of our healthcare system. I'm not even going to argue because I'm not qualified to argue if that's true. I don't know how many illegal immigrants. I do know that if you're poor enough, because we saw this problem before they created Obamacare, if you were poor and couldn't afford the doctor, you just went to the emergency room.
Our son is a paramedic. He was driving an ambulance at the time, and
But this happened when you and I were kids.
And there's certain hospitals that have to. I mean, and it's a Hippocratic oath. I mean, you
So
have to see the person.
Poor people can go to they just go to the emergency room.
Right.
Rich people go to
They're concierge
doctors and private practices. What is the middle class? The ones that are like upper middle class, or maybe they work for a school district, for example, and so they don't make a ton of money. What do?
You save up what you can save up that's considered your out of pocket, and you tell them, thankfully, you can't come get my house.
Yeah, I'm going to pay you $50 a month for the rest of my life because
exactly.
I had a medical emergency. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Like when my last October when I woke up seeing double.
Yes.
And we've gotten all kinds of bills for that our insurance company didn't cover. So anyway, this is why I got on this rant because, the wheelchairs, like my dad had to have, they haven't improved wheelchair technology forever. AI could certainly help with that. My dad needs the ability to call his wheelchair to him because he parks it a little ways away so he can put his chair up.
The few times
if he put his chair down, he could say, come a little closer.
Mm-hmm.
But he can't do that because that wheelchair, we got our local pharmacist guy, which we love this guy. He's another one of those people working himself to death to try to keep people healthy. And he sold it to us at dang near cost.
We got a decent deal on it because insurance wouldn't cover it. I mean, his Medicare would give him a non-electric wheelchair. My dad
can't even move his hands.
How's he going to fill out the paperwork, and I could have tried to have gotten Medicare to give him a wheelchair, but it was going to take like 6 weeks to get it all filled out, get it all done, and then who knows what kind of wheelchair he would have gotten.
It wouldn't have been the kind he got.
So we ended up paying like $1,700.
Which was a lot cheaper
an electric
than
wheelchair.
$5,000 that you can get it elsewhere.
Well, I mean, you can go to Amazon and get one for $600, but look at the reviews. It's not going to be.
We almost bought one off Amazon until Todd came up and had that wheelchair, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
When you say you could fill out paperwork, you weren't literally saying me.
No,
right?
me. No.
Okay.
No, me. You as in the
proverbial you. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just checking on that because for a second there I was getting a little panic. I thought maybe you're going to make me start. One of the reasons I love going to Jack. Our local,
walk in.
There's no paperwork. Every time I used to go to our local other clinic,
here's a clipboard.
I filled this out a week ago. Did you forget? Do you not have a computer? It's a new invention. Again, I think these diagnostic tools from AI and working in conjunction with doctors that don't have to be local is a huge deal. And I didn't include the article I intended to, so I'm going to tell you about it anyway, because there is a hospital system here in Texas, which I got very excited about. It's in North Texas, I think. And they have a holographic doctor. It looks like a closet with a glass door on it, but it's not generated. And I'm not saying it should be.
It's an actual person.
But it's an actual person sitting there, and you're talking to the doctor, and it looks like they're sitting inside that closet on the other side of that door. So take that and put it at CVS. Come on, CVS. If you're listening, take that closet, put it at CVS. I can be literally walking the door and standing on a scale. I can have a pill that I can swallow. All this stuff that CVS could provide me for this diagnostic. And then I can go to my holographic doctor. And guess what? They don't have to be living here locally. They can be living wherever they want to. They can be living in northern Montana if they want to.
Absolutely.
As long as I got access to this holographic doctor. I'll let you read it. You found it.
Crescent Regional Hospital is located in Lancaster, which is about 13 miles south of Dallas.
I want one of those.
And it has HoloDocs.
HoloBox.
It's a 3D system that projects a life-size hologram of a doctor so they can perform real-time consults with patients at the clinic 30 miles away.
They could be hundreds of miles away.
Right.
So the display is 86 inches tall, only requires electricity, and of course, they say an internet connection. We know when you're in rural areas, but we have fiber here now. So a fiber connection,
I still want a hardwire light put in here, but
yeah, but look at that. It looks like a closet with a glass door.
And the doctor is seeing them.
It is a live doctor.
They are seeing the doctor. He is visiting with patients.
Just like the doctor is at your, when I go into a doctor, because they make so much money on diagnostics nowadays, with the exception of Jack. Jack's starting to buy some of his own equipment, but Jack, he sends us all the time. Yeah, I've got this deal with this other people. Yeah. Your cash pay is so much cheaper. I don't think Jack makes a lot of money on diagnostics, but these other clinics, they don't do anything in the office except take your blood pressure and your weight, because everything else they want to send you somewhere to get done because it's profitable. Yeah. But when I've got this HoloBox thing, and I've got all these AI-based diagnostic tools that are helping this doctor out, now it becomes a lot cheaper because it just added a doctor, right? I think there's 2 doctors and maybe
this nurse practitioner. He's got several physician assistants, but
if he wanted a second doctor, he may have a hard time finding one here.
To get one to come here.
But he might put in one of these boxes. He might be able to bring his doctor in from Austin.
The guy who's doing this is a cardiologist. This doctor right here, that's holographic image, is the cardiologist, and he's talking to a patient.
Doesn't he look real though?
Absolutely. It looks like he's sitting right
this
there.
This is on the abcnews.go.com. So if you want to look on ABC News.
I think it actually made, it made the actual on the television ABC News.
I did. Well, they showed this originally at one of those technology shows too. So anyway, I'm sorry. We're going to run out of time, and I've got one more. We're ready to end it with my last one yet?
Absolutely. We only have just a few. We have a few.
Okay. So this one I just thought was funny. This has nothing to do with medical. It is from thedecoder.com. And it says ChatGPT isn't hallucinating. It's spreading soft BS.
You can say it, babe.
You can't say that because if you do if you post it, sometimes they'll actually take your post down because you use cuss words. It's BS. People know what BS stands for. University of Glasgow argued that the falsehoods of ChatGPT and other language models people are calling hallucinations are actually they've decided to classify it as 2 things. There's hard BS and there's soft BS. If the speaker
I'm sorry, but we were just talking about gut health. And
I know, gut health. There we go. If the speaker is trying to deceive you, that's hard BS.
So it's intentional.
It's intentional. The intention is what's the differentiator between hard. So not calling it hallucination. So soft is where they're simply indifferent to the truth. So if the people that make the AI are not putting in the things to
training it on what it actually
is, and to try to get rid of that BS stuff.
It's like, okay, here's a picture of a cat. And I'm going to train my AI to just say this is a cat. But what I really need to say is it is a black cat, because that's what it actually is.
Well, it's not just that. If they're not, you and I have talked about this all the time. If you don't give it enough context, if it doesn't have enough context and it's starting to make guesses, that's when it's feeding you soft BS.
Okay.
So what they're saying is
wrong context.
If I'm purposely trying to mislead, that's different. They're saying that hallucinations is problematic because it overestimates the capability of the system and suggests there may be solutions. When in reality, what's happening is it doesn't have the context, so it's just guessing at the answer.
It wants
and
to
it's
make
statistical.
You happy.
It wants to make you happy. It's statistical. They know when those numbers are getting low when it's guessing. So I like this. So instead of calling hallucinations, we have hard BS, we have soft BS, which, as you said, fits right along with
With
gut health,
our gut
the
health
robotic.
thing.
So it did kind of fit the medical thing.
Yeah, I guess it did.
Okay.
Anyway, all right. So we are going to go ahead and wrap up for this podcast. We're so happy that you guys are listening in. I love it. We're actually picking up some more local listeners here in our small town. And what I have a local listener, if he's out there, Steve, he is amazing. He used to be in radio, and he's actually going to come in and help us with our setup in here to make sure.
Our setup's a little amateurish.
Well, it's a little amateurish. So anyway.
And next week, I think we're going to have our traveling daughter, because she's going to tell us about using AI when you travel, right?
Yeah, she's completing a Mediterranean cruise today, and she is going to be on the podcast next week, Sunday, to talk to us about all the different ways that she used, because she used AI a lot when she was in the Mediterranean.
We'll hear all about that next week.
Absolutely. So my name is Maurie, and I'm here with my husband, Jim, and we sit down every single Sunday and talk about artificial intelligence. And we hope that you have an absolute marvelous rest of the week.